Now it's time for clicking, right? Testing, right? And I was testing a lot with him. And the reason why I was testing with him, and Irving already pointed this out earlier, they had really low click through rates. So I needed to understand why. What was going on? It was time for me to go jump in. Well, the first thing I noticed was I needed to focus on clicks or revenue, not opens. I needed to ensure that I'm always experimenting and testing something. And I needed to know how their audience was reacting. So I tested a lot, and I already instilled this principle into their brand that they need to be testing every email, because those little small incremental lifts on every email that you can test, even if it's 1, 2, 3% of click rates, or 100 clicks more, that can make a difference in a campaign. And if you have the option and power to make split tests, it'd be crazy for you not to spend the time split testing ultimately. And so that's what we did. So first things I did was I tested different examples of audiences with differences. So I took the idea behind customers, prospects, and I used same copy, but I used a lot of different subject lines. I tested him, I played with him, and I tested a lot. But look at the difference and the stark difference. And remember, these are small subsection tests that we're doing for 2-3 hours before we flip it over and allow the rest of these things to go out. But the reason why I want to show some of these things is really important. And the one that is showing all of the information is the apparent winner of each of them for what we're aiming for. But notice the click-through rates right away as we start playing with it and trying to understand their audience. One, this was the prospect on the left side, a little bit larger. Notice how it was a bigger test here. But notice that just the highest open rate does not equate the highest click-through rate. What matters is clicks. No clicks, no purchase. That's honestly it. And just because this one got revenue, notice how the low click rate was. Later on, we'll talk about this a little more, but you can see that number and data starting to show up here. Now let's look over on the right side. This is your customer list. I took the customer list and split it up because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to optimize for. Now, with a customer, I'm looking at something a little bit different because it's not just about opens and clicks, but it's also about, what's resonating the best with them. Here on C, we looked for the best balance, right? This one obviously over time increased, but this one had the best balance of clicks as well too. And you'll notice I tried a lot of different things. I flipped different ones over, and we'll talk about split testing principle later on, but essentially I did the most simple split test, at least an ABC split test in most cases. I like to do ABCD often. It allows you to really see it. And you'll see, right, at the end of the day, this test on the left side, and we'll talk about this a lot more later on, but this test generated 0.002 on our prospects. But on this test on the right side, we generated 0.01. Think about how much difference that is in speed, money. 0.01, a penny, 10 cents per subscriber per email we sent overall. This is the entire campaign. This is just a split test showing that, right? So I can tell you that what we saw immediately was that the importance of split testing and finding that and tweaking your audience to ensure that you're getting the max out of each client and each email, because it's important. So we put that principle into place. Then we needed to start defining a strategy, because the strategy of holidays is the worst strategy of them all. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody here, but just because it's National Donut Day, you can't send them pants and say, it's National Donut Day, guys. Get new pants. That's the kind of stuff that I see often because people hedge on that. The strategy is a bigger picture thinking. It's not just about your retention. It's about your entire strategy within the entire company. So I challenged them to start thinking bigger about the way that we need to approach it, start thinking bigger about how we need to put these sales together, even thinking bigger about how the money is supposed to, not the money, but how the what's the word I'm looking for? How the company is positioning themselves when we think about strategy and marketing. Okay. So, defining strategy, holidays are not your strategy, but it is the key to retention success. Defining strategy, 100% the retention success there, right? You've got to understand, history behind everything. You've got to be able to identify what caused people to want to make that purchase. And you've got to look at all the historical things, look at the clicks and the purchases, understand what the company needs. And what I'm talking about that is not just understanding what I want to sell, but also turning around to the company and saying, guys, where's your inventory at? What do we need to help you move to turn over to get you more inventory back in so that I can sell more into the future, right? Understanding what the company needs is something you've got to think about as well too. I also, as far as needs, sorry, I think I jumped ahead. That was inventory, but the other part I need is what do we need to turn in revenue, right? What do we need to aim for? What's our goal? And I looked at the historical sales so I can predict what I believe we could do right away. And I started to understand a strategy behind what has worked and what hasn't worked. and I had to understand the top of the funnel. Now, this is something I'll talk about later, but the reality of this is very simple. And everything I'm going to talk about here as we continue talking about is very simple. Top of the funnel is just as important as the bottom of the funnel. And what I mean there is acquisition is just as important as far as retention. If your acquisition funnel is empty, your retention funnel can only pump so much energy out before that retention channel will dry out. Okay. You've got to ensure that you're spending enough money and energy on the top of the funnel. That means you're getting new traffic. You're finding ways to get traffic either through advertising or through whatever channel you have, blogging, advertising, TikTok, social, whatever it is. You've got to get traffic on the top of the funnel because in order to maximize retention, a lot of that has to come into place. All right. So I introduced what I call event-based marketing to them. And I've talked about this in the past, and I talk about this as a great way to do it for even Black Friday. But applying this principle in everything that you do in business and strategically allowing yourself to create events for everything you're doing in marketing allows you to get really focused on different things, that you need to be thinking about, right? Now, we're going to peg on him right here, and we're going to talk about it real quick. When we think about right away, I said, well, what are the next events coming up? And this is what I basically said. Let's look at the holidays. Let's think about what we have in inventory. Let's think about the big holidays, the ones that people care about. Mother's Day, Memorial Day, obviously. That's what we needed to cover. And I said, what else do we have? Well, it's our 7-year anniversary. Great. We're going to do that 7-year anniversary sale. And we have a new product we want to release. So these are the things that they told me that they wanted to do. And I said, okay, great. I understand. These are the holidays. These are the things that we have. And these are the templates in the calendar that we can do. So let's define a strategy and let's work on ensuring that we're aligning our website, our marketing, our themes, everything are aligned based around all that. All right. So when you think about an event, you guys all know the very simplicity of an event, right? There's an opener, there's a main show, sometimes an encore, and sometimes a second event, right? You go to a concert, you go in, the first guy comes up. He's not really that great, but he gets the audience warmed up. They boo at him, they jazz at him. Then the main show comes up, and that's maybe the funny comedian or whatever comes up and does all the fun stuff. And maybe they come back for an encore, or maybe they come back for an optional second step. But the idea is very simple. How do you apply that same principle into your entire strategic vision of your marketing playbook? Right. Secondly, how do we start applying principles of direct response and storytelling into this? And this is one of the emails that we had, and the formatting is not perfect because I'm just kind of taking a snapshot and didn't come out perfectly. But the idea of storytelling and direct response is obviously very important. In this email here, you can see that we told a story about how the brand started, why we're having a birthday sale, what a thankfulness around what we've done, and so forth. And we created this really great story around why we're doing this huge sale and took them to a landing page. This was an explosive sale for them. It was really good. And the reason why it was really good was we disrupted the typical pattern. Now, it doesn't mean we use this the whole time. We sprinkle it in with enough to disrupt, to change, but then to bring them right back to what they should expect, right? And obviously creating that consistency is important too. But this was the direct response, all right? So then we created the calendar strategy. So again, the old strategy was whatever we could do, a product launch, whatever holiday day they had. And the new strategy was all around making sure that we had really clear, focused approach around where and what and how we should be selling.